fashion lovers, welcome back to my channel. I'm Wekanya the Creative and I'm so happy to be back on YouTube. So I'll explain one day why I was gone, but in the meantime, let's focus on what's important: fashion. Now, first things first, right? If you know that you want to be within the fashion industry, you need to know what institution you fancy, okay? Because you can't just be like, oh, I want to go to fashion school, but I don't know, I just want to go to anyone. No, it actually does have an impact. So if you want to study something that's more within the business and financial side of fashion, it's better if you go to like a school like Lycée or whatnot, because it's more business oriented in comparison to the school that I'm in, which is Fedisa. That is more practical, right? So basically what you want to do is you'd rather look at both schools, and you need to weigh the pros and the cons, you know what I mean? And also consider the fact that my school, for example, is in Cape Town, and maybe you're somewhere around South Africa and you want to be closer to home, or you just don't want to study in Cape Town at all. Number 2, stay at home or study away from home. Now, in my experience, I left home as soon as I left high school, and it's different for everybody, you know. If you know that you're somebody that is quite reliant and dependent on their family, then I don't think it's good for you to stay away from home, especially if you're doing something like fashion design, because I can tell you for a fact the experience is not the same. Fashion design is not just a degree, right? BA fashion, not just a degree. It is your life. You know what I mean? You don't have a social life. I do. You don't eat as much as you should. Everything just crumbles, you know what I mean? But we keep it moving. But one thing I can say is, if you know you're not a strong person, it's better for you to study fashion while you're at home, because you need a lot of emotional support, you need a lot of financial support. I'm gonna get to that now. Just a lot of support, man. You just break as a human being, you know? And that's the choice that you make. It's either gonna make you or break you, whether you're living at home or you're living away from home. Because believe it or not, even the people that are strong enough, that are studying away from home also tend to crumble, because it gets a bit too much. So reevaluate the type of person that you are, right? Look at your strengths and your weaknesses. Are you strong enough to study away from home, or do you need your family support? Number 3. Number 3 is synonymous to fashion school, literally. Funding. Funding. Let me tell you something. Every fashion school requires this. This thing is important, okay? You know why? Because you buy a lot of stuff, right? You pay for the facilities that are state of the art. Everything's just expensive in fashion school, you know? And obviously it's not the same for every student. And obviously some people had to be forced to compromise their dreams because of funding. And there is ways to get around it, you know? If you really want to study fashion design, and you know that financially your family is not strong enough, I think it's good to, I actually know people that got sponsors, right? So what you do basically is you seek funding, try to find a sponsor, but you also have to prove yourself to them, like, okay, this is what I'm good at, this is why I want to study fashion. You have to convince them that this is what you're going to do, like this is your life, you know what I mean? And I know somebody that has worked hard enough, and she's actually she has 3 years full ride funding, and she's doing pretty well, You know what I mean? If you're a hard worker and you know that, right? You're not a hard worker in theory, but actually practically a hard worker, you can probably get funding, you know? And the only issue that I do have with fashion schools, especially when it comes to funding, is the fact that a lot of the really good fashion schools are private and you can't just get governmental funding. So I'd advise, if you know that like your family wouldn't be able to pay for like a private fashion school, then there's nothing wrong with going to like other institutions, like actual universities that have fashion as like a module, not a module, as a degree. And because at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You're all doing the same thing, and when we all graduate, we're all going to end up in the same entrepreneurial pool trying to make it. It just depends on how good you are. You know, making clothes is a skill, and the more you harness your skill, the better you'll be. So funding, okay? Fashion is money. Start saving right now. You don't need to go to Rage Festival. You do, but you don't need to go to Rage Festival. Save up for your education. It's important. Your dreams are important, especially when it comes to fashion. Fashion is money. You breathe, you expected to pay for an assignment. You eating, you expected to pay for an assignment. Nobody is sourcing this for you. Here and there, okay, fine, the schools do give you like materials and stuff like that, but I mean, obviously it's like scrap. You pay for each and every assignment that you do. You're going to be spending $300-$400 if you want to go to my school specifically. I don't know how it works in some institutions, but fashion is fashion. You spend a lot of this thing. Some of it out of your own pocket. Some of it you have to prioritize. Do I want to go to Woolies and get some chocolate muffins from Woolies? Or do I need to buy some fabric? Or do I want quality fabric? You know, because at the end of the day, even though you spend $300-400 almost every single week just on assignments, and plus more, right? It also depends on the quality of your work. If you want good work, you're going to spend a lot of money on your assignments. You know what I mean? Because our assignment is not just written, okay? It's you making dresses, you making outfits, you know? So save. Number 4, focus on your vision. I say this, I cannot stress this enough. Guys, this is a very competitive field, okay? And if you know that you have the creative ability to come up with things just on the spot, fashion is fast-paced. You know, it's a fast-paced industry. You need to think on your feet. And if you're slow, you're going to be left behind. You're going to get left behind, and that's just how it is. Because we keep it moving. The ball keeps rolling. So by focus on your vision, what I mean is there's a lot of competition in fashion schools. And as soon as you get there, you're going to deal with people that have been sewing for 10 years and they want competitions. And you're going to meet people whose families own factories and whose families are in retail. And you're going to a certain extent, you're going to feel discouraged. At the end of the day, it's all about your work ethic, right? As long as you know that you have a good work ethic, nothing can stop you, regardless of people's backgrounds. Because at the end of the day, I've seen so many people who started off on the top and they knew everything that has to do with fashion, and then at the end they just some of them dropped out, some of them lost it. It gets tough, okay? It gets very tough. Oh, and let me not start. People will copy you. People will steal your concept. In varsity, it's nothing, okay? There are whole ass brands that are stealing concepts and stealing from local designers. It happens. You know what I mean? You start dealing with that stuff from varsity. People will steal your concepts and make it their own. This is a dog-eat-dog world. So you need to always think on your feet, especially with fashion. I cannot stress this enough. You know? If this one does this, you do this. They bite, you bite back. You know? It's cutthroat. But yeah, competition. Life is competition. Last but not least, point number 5, passion. You need to have the passion for this creative industry. You need to have the passion for design. in general, because fashion is not just making clothes and sewing and patterns and all of that. Fashion is architecture. Fashion is the human body, it's anatomy. Fashion is on the streets. Fashion is in nature, in the environment. Fashion is everywhere. Fashion is in corporate. And I'm not talking about clothes. I'm talking about elements that you look at. You know what I mean? Fashion is everything. And if you are able to be passionate enough to open up your mind and look at it from that perspective, I'm telling you, you will not go wrong. Because as a creative, you need to always obviously think outside the box. And by think outside the box, not like come up with random weird stuff. No, you need to be able to explain your concepts, right? And you need to, because that's what fashion school actually is. You know, if you're passionate enough, you need to be able to explain your concepts, and they need to make sense and how they relate to one another. Because people come up with a whole lot of profound nonsense, right? And then they're like, no, you know, it's just no one understands me. I'm just so passionate about fashion. No, dude, it doesn't work like that. You need to be passionate because the design industry is going to test you. And the question that I'm going to ask you is, how far will you go for your passion, for your career? One thing that you need to know is that you need to be equally as passionate and consistent. If your consistency and your passion are not leveled, you're going to have a problem. So make sure that you're as consistent, as passionate as you are. Because at the end of the day, you're only as good as your last work, your last garment, your last art piece. You're only as good as that. And you must also consider the fact that people will also start disappearing at school, like any other university. People are gonna drop out. You're gonna question yourself. Friendships are gonna fall out. Now I'm just describing varsity, but let's not get there, right? But one thing I can say is that fashion gives you skills, right? Really good skills. And within a year, you're going to feel like you're ready enough to start a fashion brand. You know, I'm not saying drop out after a year. But the fact of the matter is, you can learn the skill in a year and you'll be on top of your game. And the next thing you know, by the time you graduate, you would have started a fashion brand. I know a lot of people that did that. You would have started a fashion brand, be it ready to wear, swimwear. Listen, the sky is the limit, literally. You can do whatever you want once you learn how to do that. So that was my advice on the fashion industry and fashion schools. Guys, I don't think you understand how happy I am to be back on YouTube. I'm so excited. Anyway, thank you for watching my vlog, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and I will catch you later.